10 years ago, the love of my life vanished without a trace. No goodbye. No explanation. No body. Nothing. And for 10 years, I lived with a question that slowly destroyed every part of me. What happened to Emily? Then last Tuesday, a wedding invitation arrived in my mailbox, and her name was on it. I stared at the envelope for almost a minute before opening it. At first, I thought it was some kind of cruel joke, but when I looked closer, my hands started shaking, because the handwriting on the front wasn't printed. It was handwritten, and I knew that handwriting. I had spent 3 years reading notes written by that person. The loops in the letters, the way she crossed her T's, the way she dotted her I's. It was Emily's handwriting, the woman who disappeared 10 years ago. The woman everyone believed was dead. The woman I never stopped loving. And according to the invitation, she was getting married in 4 days. Before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand who Emily was. We met during our sophomore year of college. She was the kind of person who made every room brighter the moment she entered. Funny, smart, fearless. The type of woman who would talk to strangers like she'd known them her entire life. I was the opposite. Quiet, reserved, careful, but somehow we worked. For 3 years, we were inseparable. We talked about marriage, children, the future, everything. Then one night, she disappeared, just vanished. It happened in October. Emily left her apartment around 7 in the evening. Security cameras showed her walking toward her car. That was the last confirmed sighting. Her phone went offline. Her bank accounts were untouched. No activity. No clue. Nothing. Police searched for months. Volunteers searched forests and lakes. Thousands of tips came in. Every lead ended in disappointment. Eventually, the investigation went cold. Everyone moved on. Everyone except me. For years, I kept searching. Whenever somebody claimed to have seen her, I followed the lead. Whenever a missing person forum posted a possible match, I checked. My friends told me to let go. My family told me to move forward. But I couldn't, because deep down, I believed Emily was still alive. I just never imagined I'd find proof in a wedding invitation. The invitation listed a venue 3 hours away, a small town I'd never heard of. The wedding was scheduled for Saturday afternoon. Bride, Emily Carter. Groom, Daniel Thompson. I read those names over and over. The groom's name meant nothing to me, but Emily Carter was her full name, not a nickname, not someone similar. Her exact name, and tucked inside the envelope was a short handwritten note. It simply said, "I know this will be difficult, but I think you deserve the truth. Please come." No signature, no explanation, just those words. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I drove to the police station. I expected them to take the invitation seriously. Instead, they seemed skeptical. One detective examined it carefully. Then he looked at me. After 10 years, people play strange pranks. I wanted to believe he was wrong, but part of me feared he might be right. Still, I couldn't ignore it. I had to know. So on Friday morning, I packed a bag and drove to the town listed on the invitation. I told nobody where I was going. The venue was an old countryside estate surrounded by trees. Beautiful, peaceful, almost unreal. I arrived a day early and checked into a nearby motel. That night, I sat in my room staring at the invitation. My mind kept replaying old memories. Emily laughing during road trips. Emily stealing fries from my plate. Emily falling asleep on my shoulder during movies. Every memory felt fresh, like no time had passed. Then around midnight, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Silence. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then I heard a woman's voice. A voice I recognized instantly. Please, don't leave. The call ended. I froze. My heart felt like it might explode, because that voice was Emily's. I knew it, absolutely knew it. I called back. The number was disconnected. I tried again. Nothing. The entire night, I couldn't sleep. I kept asking myself the same question. If Emily was alive, Why had she stayed away for 10 years? Saturday arrived. The wedding guests began appearing around noon. Most seemed local, families, friends, people smiling and taking photographs. Normal people attending a normal wedding, which somehow made everything more terrifying, because if this was a joke, somebody had gone incredibly far, and if it wasn't, then reality was about to change forever. At exactly 1 o'clock, guests were escorted into a garden area. Rows of white chairs faced a flower-covered arch. I sat near the back. My hands were sweating. My chest felt tight. Then the music started. Everyone stood, and the bride appeared. It was Emily. Olda, but unmistakably Emily. I nearly collapsed. For 10 years, I'd imagined this moment, but reality hit harder than anything I'd expected. She was alive. Alive. The woman I'd mourned for a decade was walking toward the altar, and she looked directly at me, for just a second. Then she looked away, like she already knew I was there. The ceremony felt endless. I barely heard a single word. My entire focus remained on Emily. Every movement, every expression, every glance. I needed answers, and somehow the wedding only created more questions, because Emily didn't look scared. She didn't look trapped. She looked conflicted. After the ceremony ended, guests moved inside for the reception. I followed. Eventually, I saw Emily slip through a side hallway. Without thinking, I followed her. She entered a private room. The moment she closed the door, I opened it. Our eyes met. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then, she started crying. "Ryan," she whispered. Hearing my name from her lips shattered something inside me. I had imagined being angry, demanding answers. Instead, all I could ask was, "Why?" She sat down slowly, and then she told me a story I never could have imagined. 10 years earlier, Emily had witnessed a murder. Not a random crime, not a stranger. The victim was an accountant working for a powerful criminal organization. Emily happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. She saw faces, heard names, details, enough to become a target. When police realized the danger, they placed her into a witness protection program. Immediately, secretly, without warning anyone, including me. I stared at her. None of it made sense. "Why couldn't you contact me?" Emily lowered her eyes. Because the organization had connections everywhere. Witnesses who contacted former friends often exposed themselves. Several protected witnesses had already been killed. Authorities believed complete separation was the only way to keep her alive. For years, she lived under another identity. Different city, different name, different life. She wasn't allowed social media. She wasn't allowed contact with anyone from her past. Not even family. Not even me. The loneliness nearly destroyed her. Several times she considered breaking the rules. Several times she wrote letters she never sent. Then, something happened. The organization responsible finally collapsed. Their leaders were arrested. The threat ended. Emily was finally free. I should have felt relieved. Instead, another question haunted me. "Then why didn't you come back?" The room became silent. Emily looked toward the window, and I immediately knew I wasn't going to like the answer. Because I met Daniel, my stomach dropped. She continued carefully. Daniel had entered her life 5 years earlier. He didn't know her past, didn't know about witness protection, didn't know she had once disappeared. He simply knew her as the woman she had become, and over time, they fell in love. I felt like somebody had punched me. For 10 years, I'd kept a place in my heart for Emily. For 10 years, I'd believed we'd find our way back to each other. Meanwhile, she'd built an entirely new life, a life that didn't include me. Tears filled her eyes. "I never stopped caring about you." That sentence somehow hurt even more, because caring wasn't enough. Not anymore. 10 years had changed everything. Then Emily revealed one final truth. The wedding invitation hadn't been her idea. It had been Daniel's. At first, I didn't understand. Then the door opened, and Daniel walked into the room. The groom, The man I'd spent the entire day resenting. He looked nervous, not defensive, not arrogant, just nervous. He sat across from me. Then he explained. Several months earlier, Emily had finally told him everything. The disappearance, the witness protection, me, the man she'd left behind. Daniel listened quietly as she told her story. And afterward, he asked one question. Did he ever get answers? When Emily said no, Daniel insisted something needed to change. He believed nobody deserved a decade of uncertainty. Nobody deserved to spend 10 years wondering whether someone they loved was dead. So he convinced Emily to send the invitation. I didn't know what to say, because suddenly, the villain I'd imagined didn't exist. Daniel wasn't the enemy. He was simply a good man who loved the same woman I once loved. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Then Daniel stood. I'll give you two some privacy. And he left. Emily looked at me. I know this doesn't fix anything. I laughed bitterly. No, it doesn't. The truth was complicated. I wasn't angry that she'd survived. I wasn't angry that she'd fallen in love. I wasn't even angry about the wedding. I was angry about the years, the birthdays, the holidays, the sleepless nights, the endless uncertainty. 10 years of grief without answers. Emily nodded, as if she understood every thought inside my head. Maybe she did, because she had suffered, too, just differently. Then she handed me something. A small box. Inside were dozens of letters. Letters she'd written over 10 years. Letters addressed to me. Letters she'd never been allowed to send. That night, back at the motel, I read every single one. Some were only a few lines. Others were several pages long. They described loneliness, fear, hope, regret, and through every letter, one thing remained constant. She never forgot me. Around 3 a.m, I reached the final letter. It had been written just weeks earlier. The last sentence said, "If you're reading this, it means I finally found a way to tell you goodbye." For the first time, in 10 years, I cried. Not because Emily was gone, not because she was getting married, but because I finally understood. The chapter I'd refused to close had already ended long ago. I just hadn't known it. The next morning, I returned to the estate. The wedding reception was ending. Guests were leaving. Emily saw me standing near the entrance. She walked over. Neither of us spoke immediately. We simply looked at each other. Two people connected by a past neither could change. Finally, I smiled. A real smile. The first genuine smile I'd felt in years. "I hope you're happy." Emily began crying again. Then she nodded. "I am." And surprisingly, I meant it. Because after 10 years, I finally had answers. The mystery was over. The waiting was over. The wondering was over. Emily hugged me one last time. Then she walked back toward her husband, toward her future. And for the first time, I didn't follow. I got into my car, started the engine, and drove away. Not with heartbreak, not with regret, but with peace. Because sometimes closure doesn't come from getting the person back. Sometimes closure comes from finally learning the truth. Even when that truth isn't the ending you wanted. And after 10 years of searching, the truth was enough.